The WFSU Ecology blog started 15 years ago in a salt marsh. It was funded by the National Science Foundation, and it focused on marine biology.
Intertidal habitats are in danger across our planet. They can be unfriendly places, and the animals that live there aren't what you call cuddly. But they are important. Salt marshes, oyster reefs, and seagrass beds are in decline. To help them, we have to better understand how they function. This is Florida's Forgotten Coast. It has large expanses of protected lands and towns where people make a living from what the Gulf provides them. It is an ideal setting for studying coastal ecosystems.
You're much more able to figure out how the system is naturally working in this type of environment as opposed to over locations on the Atlantic coast or even on the West Coast out in California.
From here, we are following two studies funded by the National Science Foundation.
The coastal ecosystems that we're studying are very productive.
They support our local economy and also really fueling our sense of enjoyment and wonder.
We're studying what makes seagrasses, salt marshes, and oyster reefs so productive.
We have since branched out, but we do return to explore different aspects of marsh ecology. The fire moves slowly, giving birds a chance to get away.
So in an area like this, there are sort of low-lying wet areas and higher areas. And typically the low-lying wet areas do not burn as well, and the birds have time to crawl their way out and fly to adjacent marshes. It's very rare that we're going to walk around an area like this and find bird carcasses. They've evolved in this area. They know when a fire is coming, and they'll fly to adjacent marshes. And then once the habitat becomes suitable again and the vegetation grows back, they'll just come right back into it.
Even nocturnal animals have time to wake up and find a safe space. In this segment, we went in search of the most secretive birds in North America. And then, finally...
Yep, nice one. It's so cool. These are having yellow.
All good.
We've done a few segments on bird banding, which lets us see a lot of baby birds.
So these guys are about 2 days old right now, and although they're small in size, as I said, 5 grams, these guys are capable of moving large distances. Because we put bands on them, we've actually documented chicks of this age moving over 13 miles.
They're pretty cute. They got that big head thing going for them. Look at that. Wonderful.
Hi, baby.
But see, he still has about another 20 days before he'll fledge from the nest and actually fly on his own. So he's got a lot of developing yet to do.
We get to see a lot of our area's critters.
Oh, you beautiful girl. This is my honey.
I spent a year watching these endangered red wolves grow from small puppies. Other animals I cover are a little smaller. So we're in the Apalachicola National Forest today looking for the bee that lives in this mound, the rarely observed sandhill cellophane bee. Anyone who knows me knows I love bees. These photos are from my yard. Florida has over 320 species of native bees, and I garden to try to see as many as I can. I also drag my kids out into the forest to look for rare and local species.
Hi, this is Max. I'm out here in the forest with Dad. Dad, say hi.
When I photograph bees and other insects, I upload them to an app called iNaturalist, which helps me identify them. So satisfying. Apps like iNaturalist, Merlin Bird ID, and eBird have changed how a lot of us interact with nature. But while the apps teach us about the plants and animals we see, they also collect data. A lot of data. And so I wondered, how useful is our data to researchers?
I've been studying salamanders in Florida for over 50 years. I got my master's and PhD on salamander biology at FSU up here in the Panhandle. You might well ask, well, what's the value of a salamander or any kind of creature or plant? Wow. Well, the value is not just in the plant itself, which has its own interesting story, but the ecological relationships that plant or animal has with the ground, the geological environment it lives in, and the other plants and animals. So ecology, the larger story of the planet and how we live in it, oh, there's eggs, has a lot to do with understanding how other plants and animals make their living in environments.
Over the decades that Bruce Means has studied snakes and salamanders in our area, he's gotten to know our local ecosystems as well as anyone. In this three-part adventure, we'll get to know 3 quintessential Florida wetland environments through 3 salamanders that have featured prominently in Dr. Means' research. Some salamander species are at risk of disappearing from our area, and we cover efforts to breed and reintroduce them.
Yes, well, you are now going to release these newts.
Everybody look at Sharon.
Am I the last
Hey, Sharon, this is Leisha.
You should meet Sharon.
We've also covered efforts to reintroduce an apex predator.
It took a whole lot of people, it took a whole lot of resources and dedication to even bring this habitat to the current condition that it's in. And it requires maintenance. It requires us to be out here stewarding the land, applying prescribed fire every 2 years.
Indigo snakes are released on the Apalachicola Bluffs and Ravines Preserve, where I've had a few adventures.
I saw a fence lizard.
And I like that you saw that because what about the scales there, guys?
It's camouflaged.
Yeah.
That is called a luna moth. This is Alum Bluff. It's the biggest geological outcropping in Florida.
Do you think it would be fun to look for fossils on here?
Yes! Yes!
So what kind of fossils, we watched the video that I did a few years ago, what kind of fossils could we find on here?
Megalodon fossils.
Yeah.
I want to find a megalodon tooth to keep.
So this is the largest outcropping in Florida, about 100 feet, a little over 100 feet above the water at this water level. And there's different geological layers, about 4 different ones here.
Alum Bluff is a really special place for Florida. There's nowhere else like it. It's about 125 feet tall. And when we paddled by it on day 2, it was in its full glory. We got to paddle right up close to it and seeing all the different geological layers, seeing the fossils in there. It makes you realize that we're a tiny little blip and this beautiful place has been around for a really long time.
Is this part of the Garden of Eden trail right here?
No, you guys are backstage.
Is everybody making it?
Yep.
Josh, I'll carry you the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
There's a lot of our area that you can't see without a boat or a kayak.
If I had to come back to the same place over and over again, I would pick the Wacissa just for the fact that you never know what you're going to see. It's rich in wildlife and it's beautiful, it's fun to swim in. It's just a really, really neat place.
The spring-fed Wacissa is one of many waterways with a connection to the Floridan aquifer. This is Lake Jackson one day after a heavy rain. Just 2 days earlier, this part of the lake looked like this. The birds have really come out now that Porter Sink Basin is full, much like they did in June of 2021, right after the lake dried down. Birds seem to love this dynamic lake.
These are definitely the same birds I saw last night.
Lake Jackson's a great birding destination because of the diversity of habitats it has within it and around it. And then a big part of that is the fluctuating water levels.
This sinkhole was actually expanded quite a bit since I was here just maybe 10 days ago. And for instance, this tree right here wasn't in, and it is now. You can see all the roots hanging. I can tell that both of these waterfalls are actively cutting back, enlarging the basin here. So this thing is very active. And what you're seeing here is you're seeing the ancient conduit system that was sculpted by groundwater over many, many thousands and probably even millions of years, Rob. And the reason we see it here is because the surface of it has collapsed. The cave roof has collapsed over geologic time. This is not just a river or one pipe. This is an interconnected bunch of all kinds of porosities and cave systems and little tunnels where once that water gets into the underground aquifer, it has the ability to flow quite voluminously, as you can see from the discharge coming out of there.
It's called hole in the wall because there's an upper cave that you can't see because the tree fell down.
So we are the Groundwater Evolution, Ecology, and Biodiversity Lab here at Florida A&M University. We're focused on macroinvertebrates. And these are organisms like isopods and amphipods, predominantly that we study, and their evolution, how they enter the caves, how they evolve when they enter the caves, how they related to each other, and their general ecology.
North Florida is a place for people who appreciate plants, whether it's deep in the forest or in Tallahassee neighborhoods.
So why does Tallahassee have a love affair with live oaks? I think most people, when they're in the presence of a huge live oak, there's a certain spiritual quality to it that you just can't help but feel. They are magnificent and enormous living things. It's like confronting a blue whale, except you get to do it on land. Now this tree was exceedingly lucky. Live oaks like to do this occasionally. They like to throw out their limb and kind of rest it on the ground and say, oh, thank you.
Another thing I'll point out is when these limbs come down and touch the ground like these are doing over here, leave them alone because they are also taking weight off of the main mass of the tree.
The Lichgate oak is a good example of how big a live oak can get when it's given space. And this is much more space than oaks get in the wild. The WFSU Ecology blog has taken me all over the Panhandle, and as far as the North Pacific. But some of my favorite stories happen in the garden. Many of them take place right in my yard.